Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do a little bit of a story time about how my husband and I met, because today when I'm recording this is our 5th wedding anniversary and we've been together for 9 years. We met in March 2013, way back in the day, and the reason why I was over there was to do some Nickelodeon stuff. So I was doing, it was like Nickelodeon, I think it was like Kids Choice, Teen Choice, something like that, and they had like a UK section of it where I was like doing playing some kind of role in it. So I went out to LA for a week and I was actually in a really difficult time for my diving. It was post 2012 and I was like, I didn't know if I wanted to dive anymore. I was really struggling with one of my dives, in particular the twister, and I was just like, you know what? Can't do this anymore, I quit, I can't be doing it. And at that period of time I wasn't diving. I was like, you know what, I can't do it anymore. This is too stressful, it's too much, and I had to like figure out something else. Anyway, so this LA trip kind of came at the perfect time for me to have a little bit of a break, and I got there doing some of the Nickelodeon bits and preparing for that, and I got invited to a dinner from one of our friends, and they brought some of their friends and I brought some of my friends and some of the Nickelodeon people that I was out there with. One of the people that my friend brought just happened to be Lance. Anyway, this story gets told, you know, in so many different ways, but I guess not into too much detail. I mean, I was 18 at the time and I was trying to get all of my friends to, like the Nickelodeon people and my friends, to leave the hotel that we were staying at to go to this dinner. But we were at the bar having a couple of drinks and it was just like this thing where I was like, come on, let's go, we're already late. And so then it was like, oh, we'll just have one more drink. Oh, we're gonna go, oh, we're waiting for one more person. Oh, they're not ready yet, that kind of thing. By the time we finally left, we arrived an hour late. Not acceptable on my standards. When I walked into the restaurant, I saw my friend there and also Lance, and I remember seeing him because I saw this like floppy fringe, and I remember seeing these like broad shoulders, and he was wearing this white t-shirt with like a red hoodie and then a leather jacket on top, all layered up, and there was something that was like really striking about him that I don't know what it was. I mean, I do, because he's now my husband. It was like at that moment of like, whoa, like who is that? And obviously at that point I'd never really explored that side of my sexuality because I couldn't. Well, I could, but I was in the public eye, so it was like really a lot of pressure for me to explore my sexuality with the fear of being caught or being caught out and being outed. Anyway, we had dinner, and over that dinner we started talking about, you know, we're trying to make small talk. I found out he was a filmmaker. I didn't know that. I was actually Googling who he was under the table, which is like really bad. But my friend like was like, oh, he's Googling you. And I was like, what are you doing? I was like, I hate going into any situation at dinner when I don't know what, you know, people do, all that kind of stuff, if I should know what they do, because, you know, I don't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable or awkward. Found out that he was a filmmaker, obviously, and then he knew I was an Olympian, and we started talking about that. And, you know, then it was like, I didn't know what to talk about. I was like, I kept on getting caught staring at him, and he would look at me and I'd turn around and I'd be like, oh my gosh, he keeps catching me looking at him, how embarrassing, this is awkward. So I started making a conversation about things that go on in the Olympic Village and like all of the stories and all that kind of stuff. And we were talking about how it would make a fun TV show or a TV series, you know, that kind of thing. You know, all the small talk in the world that you can imagine. Anyway, dinner ended, and now knowing Lance is such a workaholic. The fact that he came out for dinner and then even contemplated going out afterwards on a weekday is just so unlike him. He came out after dinner and we went out to, I can't even remember, I feel like it was called Greystone Manor, and I don't even know if that's still a place. Anyway, we went there. I mean, I'm admitting all of these things, that I went to a club and I was only 18 when I was there, and it's 21, isn't it, in America? Having a good time, having fun. Anyway, Lance had to go because he finally was like, you know, I need to go home from work, I can't be doing this. And he was sat at the other side of the table, and it was like, I was always trying to keep my distance to try and like, I don't know, like I was scared, I was worried, I didn't know what to think. I'm like, I didn't want to be embarrassed. I don't know, it was this really weird feeling. So anyway, at the end of the night when he had to go, he sent his assistant, asked for my number to give for Lance, to like message me in the morning, and I was just like, oh my god, he sent his assistant over. Anyway, I type in his notes, my number with like Tom and a winky face, and Lance now tells me like, what straight boy puts a winky face in someone's phone with their number? Obviously none. Yeah, so I sent him my number, and in the morning when I woke up, I had a text there from Lance saying, lovely to meet you, we should talk about that Olympic Village idea more, that kind of thing, like perfectly innocent. Anyway, we've just texting back and forth all day, and even now knowing how much he doesn't really text, it was a lot for him to text. So we had conversations on text, and then I went to dinner that night and I said, Lance, come and meet me for a drink at the hotel bar. He came to meet me at the hotel bar, although because I wasn't 21 I couldn't do that, so we raided the minibar instead. Upstairs, and we just shared stories all night of because it was hard because I had just won an Olympic medal. Yeah, I felt like I was at my most hardest part in my diving career, because I was like, what's next? What do I do? And I didn't have anyone that would really understand that in diving, because no one had won an Olympic medal yet, so nobody knew what it felt like to know, to be what's next. I was speaking to him about that, and he related to that in the fact that he won his Oscar, and then it was it's, the come down on the other side of it, and what do you do next? Where do you go from there? We connected on that. We connected on the fact that he had lost his brother the year before. Well, actually the 2 years before, at the beginning of 2012, so the year before, and I had lost my dad, and how we had lost people, and so we had so much in common on that, and we understood what it meant to be at the top of our games, yet our fields were so completely different that we were both learning from each other, which was really exciting and interesting. Then once the mini bar was basically drained, we started to, I basically was teaching him how to dive and do the diving technique, and then we got a little bit closer, and then before we knew it, that was that. And then he had to leave because he was fighting against for the Supreme Court for marriage equality in the States. So he had to fly to DC the next morning. I was flying back to London in a couple of days, and I thought that maybe that was the last time I'll ever see him. So then we spent ages just talking on WhatsApp, sending each other pictures wherever we were in the world. He would send me photos from hotel rooms everywhere in the world of just got to my hotel. I'd be like, oh, I'm just traveling here for training, and it was just this constant back and forth. We were communicating all day, every day basically, and I had to see from afar what he was doing on TV, and him talking about marriage equality. And the funny thing is, on this picture where he's on TV with Chad Griffin, those two are the people who are kind of helping towards marriage equality in the States after Lance's Oscar speech, and I helped him choose that tie, which was very early on, and nobody else knew about our relationship at that point. So yeah, little details, if you like. I don't know why there's a picture of my cat in this highlight reel, but I think I got my cat at the same time, and that's Spyro. So I was like, oh, I think I sent him that photo. Next time I saw him was in May, where he flew over for my birthday. He said he was coming over for location scouting. I don't know how much location scouting he was doing, if any, but he doesn't take breaks from work. Like I was saying, he's a workaholic. So he came over for my birthday party, and we had some drinks at the top of the radio bar, the radio bar at the top of the Me Hotel. And that is where we had drinks with all of my friends who had come up to London, and we were having my birthday party essentially. So we went there, and that was the first time that all of my friends met him. And it was quite a surreal thing actually, because on that night, it was when I told all of my friends that he was my boyfriend, and we hadn't even discussed that. It was the third time we've ever seen each other in person. What on earth was I thinking? I got drunk on my birthday, told everyone was crying. It was this emotional moment. I'm just now looking back on it, I'm like, oh my God, what was I even thinking? But it was really fun. We had a good time. I'm swiping through these photos as little prompts and reminders. That's my friend Joe at the ice bar when we went. While he still had hair, he decided to strip off naked in the ice bar. Very typical Joe. What we ended up doing was, spending some time in London, and then he was meant to fly back to America, but what ended up happening is he extended his trip and he came down to Plymouth. When he came down to Plymouth, you could see he fell asleep on the train, and that was when he said, you should watch Milk, because I still at that point had not seen the movie that he won his Oscar for. So I watched Milk on the train while he fell asleep, and went back on our way back to Plymouth. And then we went back to my house in Plymouth, which was, at the time, I'd moved in literally a week before I went to LA, so it was all still really new and exciting, and there was, I had my own place, and it was, it was a really exciting time in my life, and that was kind of where everything was about to change, because there were lots of dates that we had in London. Actually, before we came back down to Plymouth, we went on a date, and the first date, he, because I had just told everyone that he was my boyfriend at my birthday party. The next day we went on a date and he asked me to be his boyfriend, to which I said yes. We both had far too many lychee martinis because we went out in Chinatown and it was like, I mean, they were delicious, but now I can't look at lychee martinis the same way. The next day, we went out for another date and we went to the Octo Tower is where we went for dinner, and we went there and we had another dinner, and at that dinner afterwards when we got back home he told me he loved me. I said I love you too, and that was that. And that was when the next day we went down to Plymouth. He extended his trip. We got to Plymouth, and in Plymouth there was where I would tell my mum. Now I'll tell this story of coming out in a brief manner, and if you want the full version of it, it'll be on my Patreon. I put on my Patreon, I'll have a full exclusive of like my coming out story and what it was like to actually tell my mum in that moment and go into a bit more details with the photos. But essentially, for YouTube, what happened was we were at a barbecue, my mum came over, I told her, and I don't want to ruin it for anyone on Patreon, so I'm going to finish it over there. So that was the story of how Lance and I met. If you want to subscribe to my Patreon, you can head down below and go check it out. But I hope you enjoyed that story time. Let me know if you want any more, like any other story times of like other parts of my life, because I'd be happy to oblige at this point. So yeah, hope you enjoyed that one. Don't forget to subscribe for next week, because next week's is going to be the story of our son coming into the world and being born. So yeah, don't forget to subscribe to make sure you don't miss that next week.